Hi everyone, so we'll just give it a couple minutes while I wait for people to come in. Okay, so let's get started. Hopefully, wait, too many people aren't still coming in. That should be all good. So, welcome to tonight's webinar. My name's Lily, and I'm going to be kind of emceeing tonight. And we've got lovely Professor Kimberly Norris as our academic hosting, and we've got Tanya Clark helping us with international students information, and then Lara Hay as well helping out with some of our future students' questions. Thank you all for joining this evening as we learn more about the Bachelor of Psychological Sciences. I would like to firstly remind you all that we are going to record this webinar, and an email link of the recording will be sent to anyone who has registered for this event. We will also have a copy uploaded to our YouTube page to have a look at later. All right. So I would like to start this afternoon's webinar with an acknowledgement of country. I understand that everyone joining us is from all areas, and where I am in Tasmania, I would like to acknowledge the Palawa and Pakana people of Lutruwita, the traditional owners of the land upon which we live and work. I would like to pay my respects to elders past and present as the knowledge holders and sharers. We honour their strong culture and knowledges as vital to the self-determination, well-being and resilience of their communities. And we stand for a future that profoundly respects and acknowledges Aboriginal perspectives, cultures, language and history. So what we will be covering today. Firstly, why you'd study at the University of Tasmania. And for those that don't know much about our university, we'll highlight a couple of statistics we're really proud of. For the majority of tonight, we'll be discussing the Bachelor of Psychological Sciences, and then towards the end, we will also discuss fees, scholarships, applications, and have a Q&A for any additional questions. There's going to be a Q&A tab just at the bottom of your screen, which feel free to use as we go throughout the presentation. If you have any questions you'd like answered at the end as well, we will have a section at the end for those. So, as I said, today we're going to talk about psychological sciences, but before we do, I would like to take a moment to talk about studying at the University of Tasmania as a whole. There is so much I could talk about, however, we do have a few statistics that we are really proud of and would like to share. Firstly, our student satisfaction. We have an above average satisfaction rate of 82% in regard to teaching quality and student engagement, which is above the national average of 80%. We also have excellent graduate outcomes with an 82% full-time undergraduate employment rate. So that covers students graduating a bachelor's or diploma level course. And in comparison for our postgraduate students, those that have finished a master's or research degree, the percentage of students going straight into full-time employment is 96%. These statistics come from two national student surveys called the Student Satisfaction Survey and the Student Experience Survey, measured across the country. Additionally, we provide really strong student support services to all our students and staff, both on an academic side and even support for other aspects of life. And then Lastly, not really, lastly though, something that UTAS takes really seriously is climate action. So for the last 3 years, in 2023, 24, and this year, UTAS has ranked #1 in the world for climate action. This comes from the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, and it looks at everything we do as a university. So this includes what we teach, how we teach it, the research we do, and our teaching spaces. The University of Tasmania has a genuine commitment to sustainability, and this is really at the centre of all we do and embedded through many of our courses, such as majors and minors and other elective units as well. And so, welcome to the psychology webinar. You're going to be learning lots of interesting information about our undergraduate course in psychology, and providing this information is our host from the School of Psychology, Professor Kimberly Norris, Head of Discipline. So as we go into the main part of tonight's webinar, if you could please use the Q&A button along the bottom of the screen, we'd really appreciate that. So let's get started. Kim, over to you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Lily, and again, welcome to everyone. Much like Lily was talking about the university, I could speak about psychological sciences on end, but I promise that the purpose of tonight is to give you an overview and really create that space for you to ask any questions you might have, because we would love to be welcoming you to our programs in 2026 or beyond. And one of the reasons, recognising all my biases, but one of the reasons that psychological sciences can be such an incredible degree to pursue, either in and of itself or units as part of a different degree, is because basically wherever there's people, there's a need for an understanding of psychology. Because fundamentally, psychology is the study of human behaviour, human thoughts, beliefs, basically why people do what they do. And as you can appreciate, that impacts people in every environment, whether they be their work environment, their leisure environment, their relationship environments, because you will be learning about and developing skills in cooperation, communication, and fundamentally, one of the things we love you to leave our degrees with is the knowledge that every behaviour has a purpose. And studying psychology helps you better understand that purpose and thereby help people in any way that you choose to. This is why when we talk about what does a psychology graduate do, it's an unending list. It could be about enhancing human performance. It could be about health-related behaviours. It could be about business, so maximising, productivity, efficiency. It could be about education, because you'll actually learn about how people learn and strategies to do that even better. Sport is a really big one as well. Pretty much you name it, and psychological sciences will have some content dedicated to that process. And it's not just about where we've come from. So yes, it's really important to understand the historical roots, if you like, of psychological science, but it's really important to understand contemporary psychology as well. And that might range from how the brain works right through to investigating human behaviour and mental health. And I think that's a really important thing, that sometimes if you've not had the privilege of studying a lot of psychology before, we can sometimes get a little bit of a narrow view that psychology equals mental health. That's part of the picture, but the whole picture is so much broader than that. Fundamentally, if we had to, if you like, come up with a catchphrase for the way we approach learning and teaching within psychological science, it's about adopting a scientist practitioner model. What that really means is research, and this is research that you can be part of as part of your degree, research informs practice. And that's not just practice as a psychologist. Remember, it could be practice in HR, in a business setting. It could be practice in a legal context. It could be practice in a learning context. And then the really, really exciting part is that practice goes back and informs research. So I'm also a clinical psychologist. So what happens is I'll conduct research that's aimed at enhancing, well-being, for example. I'll go and use that in a clinical setting when I'm working as a psychologist. But while I'm working as a psychologist, I'm also observing and seeing, oh, here's a pattern of behaviour. And at the moment, we don't understand much about this, or we don't know much about how to improve it. So then I go back and I develop research based on that gap. And it becomes this amazing spiral where we observe, we research, we adapt behaviour. We observe, we research, we adapt behaviour. And even though being a psychologist might not be your goal, because remember, it is one of so many options, you will be trained to use these types of scientific methods to really think critically about the information that you hear, whether it be in psychology or elsewhere. Understand theories, understand therapies, and really importantly, how to understand data. So when, for example, people present numbers and statistics, you'll be that much better equipped to really think carefully about what does that truly mean? Because yes, somebody might tell you what their interpretation is, but it's really powerful for you to have that skill yourself. So Lily, if I could get you to skip to the next slide for me, please. Thank you. So you can imagine to achieve all of these outcomes, to understand human behaviour, to conduct research, you develop a lot of different skills and knowledge in our programs, some of which are focused on human behaviour, including your own behaviour. You actually learn a lot about the way you function and how to use your newfound knowledge to enhance your own functioning, to achieve your own goals. As I've already mentioned, you will absolutely have the ability to both conduct and also analyse research, be it your own research or the research of others. And we are finding more and more and more in the employment world that particular ability to conduct and analyse research is very highly sought after by employers. We support you to develop advanced communication skills. This includes not just, being able to speak to people in a clear and, engaging way, but skills in writing and even engaging in that AI space in an ethical, professional, and appropriate way. We spend a lot of time on problem solving and critical thinking skills. And one of the things I love teaching the most is when we're in the learning environment, in the classroom, whether that be the online classroom or the on-campus classroom, because we do offer both, is we come to the classroom with real world problems and help you to apply your skills and your knowledge you've learned about in the program to develop answers to these. And those opportunities to practice skills, apply your knowledge, not only further helps your learning, but really importantly helps with your confidence to take those skills out into the world. We also spend a lot of time on ethics, and this spans the whole range of ethical practice, whether it be around, as I've already mentioned, AI, whether it be around the way, people, you've probably maybe heard of the bystander effect, where in large groups of people in particular, they can observe something not very good happen, but no one steps in. And what are the ethics of that, and why does that happen? Obviously, mental health is a component of what you will learn about. It's kind of what psychological science is known for, but remember, it's a small part of a very big picture. We're also really, really proud and continuing to develop our cultural responsiveness and cultural awareness. And this is absolutely as it relates to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and also other components of culture as well. So essentially, it's about safe and inclusive behaviours that we can engage to support ourselves and to support others, whether that be at an individual level, an organisational level, or a societal level. And linking back to those communication skills again, we also have those writing skills, because although there can be many different ways you can communicate, it is still quite a common, requirement, if you like, to be able to communicate in a written form. And we really help you to refine your skills here. And again, something I really love about the way we go about writing skills and advanced communication skills is it's not our goal to create a cohort of mini-me's. Instead, we focus on supporting your individual style and helping you to develop that so that it feels much more genuine. And again, your capacity to take that out into the world in a sustainable way is much, much stronger. So what we do know, because again, remember, we're scientist practitioners, so we've done the research to inform the practice, and then our observations have informed the research. And what we've found is that psychology is still quite narrowly understood. When people who haven't studied our degrees think about psychology or are asked, what does a psychology degree do for you, tends to narrow in on you become a psychologist. Really interestingly, when a group of researchers, it was a group of researchers primarily based in the Australian Capital Territory, but actually included researchers from around Australia, they undertook research specifically focused on employers and asking them, have you ever employed a psychology graduate, an undergraduate psychology graduate? And if so, why? What was it about this graduate that really appealed to you and made sure that it was the right fit for your employment needs? They did what's called a thematic analysis. And what that means is they read through lots and lots and lots of written responses and they group them according to shared ideas or themes. And one of the strongest themes that came out was that psychology graduates hold a unique and highly valued skill set, which is required across a whole range of different roles, across a whole range of different employment contexts. Now, for some of us who've been here a very long time, we're like, yeah, obviously. But what we perhaps didn't fully appreciate was how powerful that message was for people thinking about what can I do with a psychology degree. So then we got the research, we did the research, we got the data that says people who already employ psychology graduates know they're awesome and they want more of them. So what about the people who aren't employing psychology graduates? What's going on there? So another part of the research was, how can we help people not employing psychology graduates? What do we need to do? And that part of the research basically showed we need to be much more explicit or specific about where and how psychology graduates can work. So we're both informing employers, if you want someone who can think critically, be a great problem solver, be a team player, be a flexible thinker, understand human behaviour, have we got a deal for you? Look at these psychological science graduates. And at the same time, we recognise that in our training programs, there was a wonderful opportunity to actually teach you from your very first year with us about your value in terms of your unique skill set, the unique opportunities you have and you can provide. And I think that is maybe something that could quite easily get forgotten, because when you're surrounded by the people who are doing the exact same subjects as you, you're kind of like, well, everyone knows that. Look, I asked this person, they know. I asked that person, they know. But when you talk to people who are not studying psychology, you very quickly realize, oh, I do know things that not everybody knows. And I do have skills that not everybody has. I need to be confident to communicate that, not just in employment context, but in my everyday life. And those two pieces of data, okay, so what is it that employers love about psychology graduates? And how can we best support psychology graduates to meet those expectations? Really informed quite a shift in the way we train psychologists and recognizing that your psychology degree is not necessarily about becoming a psychologist. It might be for some of you, but actually, it's a degree that could underpin any career you choose. And I really hope you can hold on to that because that is the whole premise behind when you graduate with a Bachelor of Psychological Science, you are actually a psychological scientist. It is a professional identity and it's one to hold with pride. And if someone says, well, what does a psychological scientist do? Oh, that's just an invitation to talk about all the skills and all the knowledge you've learned throughout your degree. So bearing that in mind, bearing that matrix, if you like, so that combination of different skills that you will come out with as a graduate of Bachelor of Psychological Science, at a very quick scan, okay, this wasn't a deep dive, this was just a surface level scan of employment advertising platforms. It found that there were 34 job categories directly relevant to graduates of a Bachelor of Psychological Science without any further training or qualifications needed. So this is, you graduate with your Bachelor of Psychological Science and you could walk into any one of these roles because you've already got the core skill set. So I'm not going to go into every one of those because you can go back and watch the recording if you're super keen, or if you're super, super, super keen, you can actually go ahead and read the research. There's the source down the bottom of this slide and the slide previous. But maybe something you hadn't necessarily thought about was, a contract program or project administrator. But there's problem solving, there's time management, there's conflict resolution, there's flexible thinking, there's understanding human behaviour, there's communication. So it is, thinking about what can I offer? It's almost the opposite. What can't I achieve? So I'll get you to move on from that one for me, please, Lily. Thank you. But of course, for some of you, one of the reasons that you're attracted to psychological science is because you do have a goal of working in the healthcare industry. And again, if you have a chance to look at that previous slide or just to think about the diversity of roles, there's a lot within healthcare as well. So there's the traditional counsellors, social workers, welfare officers, those types of things. But there's also the administrative requirements, HR, those components as well. And the reason we're spending a little bit of time on this topic is that in the next 5 years, it's expected that the healthcare industry will continue to grow and expand by more than 15%. Now, that's a lot of job opportunities. And psychology and counselling skills in particular are in very high demand. And it's argued that, we need about 13.3, or there will be about 13.3% growth for psychologists and psychotherapists, 25% growth for welfare workers, and around 14% growth for counsellors. So it is a high demand, set of skills. And again, is a lovely reminder that there are so many different opportunities if you complete a Bachelor of Psychological Science. So why choose us? We are really, really proud of the fact that our Bachelor of Psychological Science is accredited by the Australian Psychology Accreditation Council. That's really important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's an independent proof of the quality of the program of study that you'll be undertaking. It's a big deal, and it's a really, really comprehensive process where we provide annual updates. Every 5 years, there's a very, very comprehensive review. It is an independent tick of approval, if you like. The other reason it's really important is for those of you who might be considering progressing towards becoming a psychologist, you must complete an APAC, so Australian Psychology Accreditation Council, the acronym is APAC. You must complete an APAC undergraduate sequence, followed by an APAC honours sequence to be eligible to go into a master's program, which also has to be APAC accredited, to become a psychologist. That's actually the only pathway by law. So if that's an option you want to leave open, definitely, we've got that covered for you. You can study this degree in person on the Hobart campus. You can study this degree in person on the Launceston campus. You can study this degree in person on the Burnie campus. And if you're not located in Tasmania presently and aren't thinking of relocating, we also offer this as a fully online degree. And every one of those offerings all meet those accreditation requirements. And we've put a lot of work into making sure that whether you join us in person, whether you join us online, you have the same level of support, you have the same learning opportunities, and you can be confident in your knowledge and skills. The other thing I'm really, really proud of and get really excited to share is the staffing team in our school are obviously very good at what they do, but there's incredible diversity in terms of research skills, in terms of knowledge bases. And what that allows us to do is actually create opportunities for you to receive quite strong grounding in major areas of psychology, like, for example, clinical psychology, which is often what people think about, but also neuropsychology. So really looking at how brain structure influences function and how brain function influences behaviour and factors that can influence brain structure and function. We also spend a lot of work in the social psychology space. So that's basically those interpersonal processes, whether they be at an individual level, group level, societal level, and it covers things, so vast. It could be around gaming, it could be around social media, it could be around groupthink. It's endless. And also developmental psychology, which focuses on learning about and understanding how people's behaviour changes over the lifespan and things that influence those changes and maximise potential. Because although in the olden days, psychology used to focus on what goes wrong and how we fix it, yes, we still maintain that focus. But really importantly now, we also recognise the need to understand what goes right. Because if we can figure out what goes right, we can actually prevent so much unnecessary distress and really optimise human experience. And that is all stuff you will learn if you join us in the Bachelor of Psychological Science. And so how do we achieve this? Like, what will you actually be doing? You'll be doing solving research and work-based problems. So again, that idea of let's bring this to the real world. The fancy words we put around this is it's translational. In other words, you take the theory into practice. And you'll be supported by psychology trained staff and across so many different areas of psychology that, no matter what your interest area is, we can almost guarantee that there's at least one staff member who has some level of expertise in that and can make time to share that with you. Now, I do apologise in advance. It's actually really confusing figuring out how you become a psychologist in Australia. It's not our fault, I promise. We have no control over this. This is national law and we kind of have to, advise it. So if you've already recognised, I don't actually want to be a psychologist, you get full permission not to worry about this really busy slide. But if it is something you are thinking about, I'll try and simplify it as much as possible. Long story short, you come into the Bachelor of Psychological Science, okay? You do the accredited sequence. You then would need to complete the Bachelor of Psychological Science with honours. You then move into a master's training program. And at the end of that training program, you are eligible to register with AHPRA, the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency, as a psychologist with a general registration. Now, there are some hurdles you need to achieve as you go through this. So in your Bachelor of Psychological Science, or we do have a couple of other accredited pathways as well, which is what else is listed there. Unfortunately, we don't have the capacity to take every single person from undergraduate into the honours program. And the reason for that is that in honours, you actually get to do a whole research study focused on your interests for the whole year. It's a really exciting and amazing opportunity. But because it will, it will take a lot of time and you'll need a lot of support, we actually provide one-on-one research supervision for you. And we just don't have enough staff to do that for everyone. So what we do say is that if you are thinking about trying to get into honours, which is the pathway towards masters and registration as psychologist, or the pathway towards research, you should be aiming for about a distinction average in your second and third year units in the accredited sequence. The reason we don't count your first year units is you're still figuring uni out at first year. Let's be really honest. You need time to settle in, kind of get the lay of the land, take some positive risks in understanding what's required of you. So we don't want that to impact your progression. And so we only look at those second and third year psychology subjects from the accredited sequence. Once you finish honours, if you are interested in becoming a psychologist, you could become a Master of Professional Psychology, which is 1 year of training with us, and then 1 year of supervised placement out in the world, earning money, which is a great pathway in my, opinion. The other option is to do a 2-year Master of Psychology Clinical, which is 2 years of training with us, which includes extra placements and extra knowledge base. So I'm not going to go too much further into that. It's confusing. My advice is just enjoy your Bachelor of Psychological Science and ask staff while you're there of any questions you might have. A really common question we get asked is, how are psychology and social work different? And the reality is there's a lot of overlap, absolutely, because fundamentally they are focused on helping people. There are some key differences on this slide that we thought might help you, get a little bit of an understanding. But for example, where psychology studies the mind and human behaviour, and we're trying to improve our understanding of both the mind and human behaviour, social workers strive to improve lives and really focus on inequalities that can influence people's quality of life. And social work tends to focus with not just individuals, but a lot at systems level, at a local, national and global level. Whereas in general, psychologists are focused much more on the individual or the group or the organisation that they are directly providing care for. Psychology is what's called a registered profession, and it's a restricted title, which means to be allowed to call yourself a psychologist, there's a really strict pathway you have to follow, which was on that previous slide, and you're not allowed to call yourself a psychologist if you don't do that. And at the moment, social work is accredited through the Australian Association of Social Work, but it's not what we call a restricted or protected title. So that there are differences, but in my opinion, they're complementary. And if I put my psychologist hat on at the moment, I can tell you now that there's very few clients that I work with who I don't also work with a social worker to support these people. So we work very, very closely together. So then we cover off on all of these key points. So how do you know if psychology is for you? How do you know if this is a degree you should enroll in? Well, if you have an interest in people and particularly understanding why people make the choices they do, how we can support people to make the most of their inherent abilities, helping people to communicate better at work as well as in their personal lives, help people learn the skills they need to make changes in their own lives, it probably is quite a good fit. And to help you achieve those outcomes, really what we're looking for is a curiosity. So if you are the type of person who says, yeah, but why? 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 And find it really interesting when people have different perspectives, that might suggest you're a good fit. If you're somebody who, finds in general you prefer to collect objective, observable data or facts to understand people, as opposed to just going with gut feeling, then psychological science is definitely for you. And I think that's kind of the giveaway in the title, isn't it? It's a science. And so although you might have a gut feeling, you prioritize evidence. If you already have an ability to see things from other people's perspectives or an openness to learning how to do so, that's another really good sign. And this is a hard one, and it's one that you can develop over time. But if you can recognize there are opportunities for you to grow, there are skills maybe you don't have yet, but you're willing to do something to get those skills, psychology is definitely for you. So I've covered a lot of this already, but in terms of how the content is delivered, there's lecture type content delivered online for everybody, no matter whether you're on campus or fully online. There are practical activities or tasks or workshops that are completed on campus for the on-campus students, and activities online that tap into the same skills, but don't always require you to be physically present in the online space at a given time. There's increased flexibility in that way. If you have interest in other subjects, there is absolutely room for you to include those in your degree, and actually is a really great opportunity to learn more about how other professions and disciplines work. Domestic students, so those of you who have Australian citizenship, you are eligible for a Commonwealth supported place, which means that there are fee benefits for you. And we do undertake 2 intakes every year. So one in semester 1, so that's sort of the February-March start, and one in semester 2, which is the July-August start. So, if you think, oh gosh, I missed my window, just wait a couple of months and there's another opportunity coming your way. So the minimum ATAR, which is, for those who may not be familiar with that sort of terminology, it's like the score you need from your high school studies. For the past couple of years, or it's been around 65 has been the lowest score in which somebody has been granted entry into the program. If you've got a background with VET or TAFE studies, then you could be eligible, depending on whether you've completed a diploma, advanced diploma, or certificate 4. If you have any of those achievements already, that can be considered as part of your eligibility requirements being met. If you've done a degree before, and if it was in the last 10 years, you can actually come through what's called the graduate entry pathway, and that allows you to really focus in on those psychology units. There are a couple of other things on that slide there, but I guess long story short is what I'm saying is, no matter what your background, there will be a pathway to join us. And if you're not sure, please reach out to our university teams, because they are going to be able to provide you advice and guidance, because as I said before, we would love to welcome you all to join us.
Oh, gone too far. Thank you so much, Kim, for all. No, it's not going back. Thank you for all the information on psychology as a whole and the Bachelor of Psychological Sciences here at UTAS, and a little bit about admissions. So this slide is just tells us about some of the general supports that the university offers. We have a wide range of support available for all of our students who would like to come to the University of Tasmania, and these are kind of broken up into 3 areas here. So we have the study support, career guidance, and counselling and wellbeing. So firstly, highlighted in study support is our peer-assisted study sessions. So these are available in most of the first year psychology students, classes, and a couple of our second year classes as well. These are optional tutorials run by an experienced student in that study area, and they're completely complementary to your compulsory learning and workshops. So you can also attend some learning workshops to help you enhance your learning skills at university, and you can access these by reaching out to some of our student advisors if you're needing help managing your workload or adjusting to a study plan. Along with this, we have tutoring programs and additional services such as Studiosity, where students can access advice and study support as well, 24 hours. In regard to our career guidance, we offer a service through our student portal called Career Connect. Through this portal, you can access support applying for jobs, career guidance, volunteering opportunities, and professional connections. And we also offer wellbeing services to all our staff and students. Through our student portal, students can access a number of counselling sessions per year, whether this be support regarding study concerns such as procrastinating or feeling overwhelmed, and also with personal life experiences or sudden events that may have changed things in your life or in your studying. All of these study supports are available to all our students through Student Portal, and they're very accessible online. Another thing I'd like to touch on is cost. So this is something that we do get lots of questions about, and rightly so. You are going to be paying for the degree eventually. So for a domestic student, we currently don't have a total cost of the course listed on our website, whereas you will see a total cost for an international student, and that is because the cost of your course is determined by the individual units that you do enroll in. So everyone completing the same course may have slightly different fees depending on elective units or the structure of courses. However, the Bachelor of Psychological Sciences is covered under the Commonwealth Supported Place, as Kim mentioned earlier, and this means the cost of each unit is subsidised by the government, and you will then cover the remaining cost, which often domestic students put on their HEX loan. So sometimes called HEX or HELP loan. This is essentially a government loan which helps you to cover the costs of your fees. And if you do have any further questions about this, please feel free to reach out to us later on and we can help you with those questions. There is also a student services and amenities fee, which is like an administrative fee also applied to each unit. So with HEX help loans, this is basically a loan where you defer repaying your fees until you're earning over a certain amount. We've got 54,000 on the screen. It's about now 67,000. So that does change each year. And we also have many scholarships available. These can be from all different areas, whether it be academic achievements, community goals, extracurricular activities, sporting endeavours, whether you're relocating and needing accommodation, or there may be course-specific scholarships as well. We do have a few that close on the 31st of October, but there are still many available that close later on this year or early next year, so you can still apply for some of those. And as long as you're meeting the closing date on the website, then you can definitely apply and you will be assessed for that course. It's an easy application system, just like our application for courses. And so with that, it's the next one. So Our system of application, with our course applications for a domestic student, it is quite a straightforward online process. You need to tell us who you are, what you've studied in the past, if you have studied something before, and what you would like to study with us going forward. It's these 3 pieces of information that are most important, and then you do have to wait a little bit until you are assessed for an offer. Once you've received an offer, you can then enroll in that unit and pick your electives if you are picking electives. If there's any challenges with offerings and enrolments, please do reach out to us. We do have many different pathway options to go into a bachelor, and we can help with any of those questions as well. And so now I'd like to pass over to Tanya, who is going to talk to us about our international student processes. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you very much, Lily. So Lily has kindly been outlining the processes mostly which relate to domestic students. Now, for international students, there are some similarities, but there is a different way of applying, and the fees are a little bit different as well. So just move on to, if you could just move on to the next slide. Thank you. So the application process is the same website, but we use StudyLink for our international applications. So if you go through to, and I think the website that was outlined earlier, the utas.edu.au/apply should take you to the same place. There is a process there for international students and a link for everyone, and Lara has kindly put that into the chat, so thank you very much. If you click on the link there, that will take you through to our StudyLink portal. You might also like to apply through one of our education agents, and you can find their details. They're located all around the world, so you should be able to find one in your home country. So if you go to utas.edu.au/world, you'll be able to, and I'll put that into the chat as well when I've Cool. Thanks, Lara. If you go there, you should be able to put your country of origin in, and it'll give you a list of the education agents that are in your home country, and you can visit their offices and they'll help you with the application process, and they'll generally help people all the way up to the visa processing stage as well. So with our scholarships, there are a couple of scholarships specifically for international students. So those are the Early Acceptance Scholarship, which is a 15% fee reduction, and that applies to the duration of your program, and that is for all students who accept their offer for semester 1 2026 by the 15th of December. We also have the Tasmania International Scholarship, which is a 25% reduction in registered tuition fees for the duration of your course. And that is also, we can package that for a 35% fee reduction if we package that with the Early Acceptance Scholarship as well. So there is also a website there for international scholarships, and we can put that into the chat as well. It's just utas.edu.au/study/scholarships, fees and costs /international scholarships. So that will give you a little bit of information about our Early Acceptance Scholarship and the Tasmanian International Scholarship. If you'd like to contact us, you can email us on your.study@utas.edu.au. We also have some country managers who are based throughout the world. And at our website, we have utas.edu.au/study/international/contact. And we can also direct you to one of our international country managers who are based in your home country, and they'll be able to help you with the application process. So Lara's been putting a lot of really helpful links into the chat there. So our agent partners, if you're looking for an agent, international scholarships, there is the link there, and the application process is the link at the top. So if all else fails, probably the best idea is to email us on your.study, and I'm just putting this into the link now, your.study at utas.edu.au, and that email address is checked daily, so we'll be able to get back to you with some more information if you need it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanya. And so on to the Q&A. We've had a couple questions.
I can read those out if you like, Lily.
Thank you, Lara.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And these will probably be for you, Kim, and we can take them on notice as well, just in case you may or may not know the answer, because they are centered around international. So I'll start from the bottom and work my way up. So we've got how many places do we have for international students for the Masters in Clinical Psychology?
Really good question. And the exciting answer is as many who make the grade. And what I mean by that is when it comes to masters, it's a multi-step process. So you submit an application, and that will include your CV, it will include referee reports, it will include your transcripts, and it also includes a personal statement where you talk about why you want to study this program. Then from that, we do an assessment that you get scored against a series of criteria, and then the people with the highest scores are invited to an interview. And then based on the interview performance, we make offers. So what that means is, theoretically, we could have an entire cohort of international students if they were the strongest applicants. So on average for the last couple of years, so we have 10 in our current Masters program who came in this year. The year before we had 8, the year before we had 11, and this is in a cohort of, about 20 to 30. So it's quite a strong representation of international students.
Awesome. And that leads into, there's a question here from Claire around for Master of Psychology Clinical / the PhD double degree and Master of Psychology Clinical, do they have the same type of quota? Are they the same concept? Is it that same interview concept, or are they different?
They are different. So the Master of Psychology Clinical does have a quota, and that is dependent on both research supervisors but also placement supervisors, because there's really strict rules about having somebody to support you and supervise your skills working with clients. Having said that, each year we take between 20 to 40 Master of Clinical Psychology students. Some years are even more. It just depends on the availability of supervisors. But people doing the double degree are far, far fewer. And the reason for that is because you have to be accepted both into the Master of Clinical Psychology as well as into the PhD. They're two separate applications. And if you're accepted for both, then you go into the double degree. And there's just very few people who do that, but also because it's an incredible amount of work. So what we typically see is most people do the master's degree first, go and start working, and then come back and do a PhD. And often that PhD is based on the work they've been doing. So that's scientist practitioner model in action. So just as an example, I had the privilege of working with a particular student who did their master's of clinical psychology, was employed and worked within a prison setting. And through their work in the prison, they actually saw an opportunity for this thing called therapeutic climate. So in other words, are prisons good places to psychologically rehabilitate people? And she came back, and that was her PhD.
Oh, wow.
So that's the more common pathway. And that way you avoid those risks of quotas and having to do both at the same time.
Awesome. And one more for you. This person has a student in their first year at Curtin, Malaysia's Bachelor of Science, Psychological Science. On Curtin Malaysia's website, it is stated that the program is recognised by MQA Malaysia, but there is no mention of APAC accreditation. Can this student, can she join UTAS Bachelor of Psychological Science with honours?
So the short answer is maybe. So if the qualification is from overseas and it's not specifically an APAC accredited course, what they can do is apply for equivalency. And the way students do that at the moment is they contact the Australian Psychological Society and they complete a series of forms and submit unit outlines or course subject outlines, their transcripts, and this particular organisation then reviews, does this map onto the accreditation standards? And if the answer is yes, they get a letter saying you have completed the equivalent of a 3-year sequence, a 3-year accredited sequence, which means they're eligible to apply for honours. And that letter forms part of the application process. It's proof that although you didn't study an APAC accredited degree, it has been deemed as equivalent. And the same goes for masters. If someone's done their honours overseas or has studied a degree overseas and they believe it's equivalent to the honours level, the same process. Now, what I would say is it does take up to 3 months for the Australian Psychological Society to undertake those assessments. So if that is relevant to students you're supporting, get onto it early, because you'd hate for that to be the missing piece of evidence that they need. And I just want to make clear as well, that's only relevant to international students. Domestic students must complete an accredited sequence.
Okay, thank you for that. And there is a follow-up around just back to the double degree versus not the double.
Yes.
So the question is, may I also ask for international applicants applying for Master of Clinical Psychology, whether the IELTS requirement is due by the application closing date or by the acceptance date? Tanya, you could probably answer that one potentially. Or Kim?
Yeah,
No?
I'm happy to, Tanya, if you're happy for me
Awesome.
to. So typically that would be a requirement as part of the application. The reason for that is if we progress to offer, we have to be sure that you'll be eligible to get provisional registration with the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency, and IELTS or TOEFLs or, whatever English language proficiency test you undertake, there are rules around that. So we would never make you an offer if you weren't going to meet those requirements, because that's not fair. Having said that, we do understand that sometimes there can be very, very appropriate reasons that you haven't been able to get that done. And what we'd say is get your application in and then get your proficiency results in as soon as possible afterwards, because essentially we'll hold on. We won't make a decision about your application until we get your results, but you won't progress to interview if you don't have those results.
Great, thank you. And just really quickly, I did find psychology.org.au and it is showing me that it's the Australian Psychological Society's website. So that's correct?
Yes, please.
Awesome.
Yes.
I will pop that in the chat just from the information that you provided before as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. No, thank you. And Lily, that is all in the Q&A chat. But as you did mention, this is being recorded. And in the email that will go out afterwards, there is information to connect back in with the university from both the domestic and international perspective. So if anyone does have any more questions, they can ask at any point.
Yes, thank you very much, Lara and Tanya and Kim, for all your help then. And so and there's no more questions. That kind of concludes our webinar for tonight. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you very much, Kim, for all your information and on the Bachelor of Psychological Science. Oh, we do have a hand raised.
We might, if Ben can type his question into the Q&A function. I'm just unsure if we can take someone off mute in a webinar setting, Lily. Is all. Or alternatively, Ben, if you want to shoot your inquiry through to your.study, or if you accidentally raised your hand, that's okay as well.
Oh,
No, lowered.
lowered. Yes, but for anyone, yeah, please reach out with any questions. Someone will be able to help you. We can find the right person. That being said, thank you all for joining tonight. And yes, you will hear from us soon with a recording of this webinar and some more information about contacting us if you do have any questions. Have a lovely night, everyone, and thank you. Bye.